post in the hall. "Do not use the front door," it warned him. "Out of my way," growled Robert. The robot reached out to enforce the command. Robert seized it by the forearm and put all his weight into a sudden tug. The machine tottered off balance. Releasing his grip, he sent it staggering out the door with a quick shove. A hasty glance showed Marcia Jones flapping wetly up the last steps. Robert turned to face the robot. "Do not use that door," he quoted vindictively, and the robot halted its rush indecisively. "Only Marcia Jones uses it." The major domo hesitated. After a moment, it strode off around the corner of the house. First darting one more look at the stairs, Robert thrust his head outside and shouted, "Blue 2!" He held the door open while he waited. There was an answer from the shrubbery. Presently, his own supervisor hurried up. "Fetch the emergency toolbox," Robert ordered, "and bring a couple of the others with you." "Naturally, Robert. I would not carry it myself." A moment after the robot had departed on the errand, heavy steps sounded at the rear of the hall. Marcia Jones' robot had dealt with the mechanism of the back door. Robert eyed the metal mask as the robot walked up to him. He found the color contrast less pleasant than ever. "I am not using the door," he said hastily. "I am merely holding it open." "Do you intend to use it?" "I haven't decided." "I shall carry you out back," the robot decided for him. "No, you don't!" exclaimed Robert, leaping backward. The door immediately began to swing shut as he passed through. Cursing, he lunged forward. The robot reached for him. This time, Robert missed his grip. Before he could duck away, his wrist was trapped in a metal grasp. "The door will close," he despaired. "They'll be too late." Then, suddenly, he felt the portal drawn back and heard Blue 2 speak. "What does Robert wish?" "Throw this heap out the door!" gasped Robert. Amid a trampling of many feet, the major domo was raised bodily by Blue 2 and another pair of Robert's machines and hustled outside. Since the grip on Robert's wrist was not relaxed, he involuntarily accompanied the rush of metal bodies. "Catch the door!" he called to Blue 2. When the latter sprang to obey, the other two took the action as a signal to drop their burden. The pink and blue robot landed full length with a jingling crash. Robert was free. With the robots, he made for the entrance. Hearing footsteps behind him as the major domo regained his feet, he slipped hastily inside. "Pick up that toolbox," he snapped. "When that robot stops in the doorway, knock its head off." Turning, he held up a finger. "Do not use the front door." The major domo hesitated. The heavy toolbox in the grip of Blue 2 descended with a thud. The pink and blue robot landed on the ground a yard or two outside the door, as if dropped from the second floor. It bounced once, emitted a few sparks and pungent wisps of smoke, lay still. "Never mind, that's good enough," said Robert, as Blue 2 stepped forward. "One of the others can drag it off to the repair shop. Have the toolbox brought with us." "What does Robert wish now?" inquired Blue 2, trailing the man toward the stairway. "I'm going upstairs," said Robert, "and I intend to be prepared if any more doors are closed against me." He started up, the measured treads of his own robots sounding reassuringly behind him. It was about a week later that Robert sat relaxed in the armchair before his own telescreen, facing Henry's wizened visage. The elder man clucked sympathetically as he re-examined the scratches on Robert's face and the bruise under his right eye. "And so you left there in the morning?" "I certainly did," declared Robert. "We registered a marriage record at the city library by television, of course, but I don't care if I never see her again. She needn't tell me all about the child, if any. I simply can't stand that girl." "Now, now," Henry said. "I mean it. Absolutely no consideration for my wishes. Everything in the house was run to suit her convenience. After all, Henry pointed out, it is her house. Robert glared. What has that to do with it? I don't think I was as unreasonable as she said in smashing that robot. The thing just wouldn't let me alone. I guess, Henry suggested, it was conditioned to obey Marcia Joan, not you. Well, that shows you. Whose orders are to count anyway? When I tell a robot to do something, I expect it done. How would you like to find robots trying to boss you around? Are you talking about robots? Asked Henry. Or the girl? Same thing, isn't it? Or it would be, if I decided to bring her home with me. Conflict of desires, murmured Henry. Exactly. It's maddening to have a perfectly logical action interfered with because there's another person present to insist, mind you, on having her way. And for 20-odd years you've had your own way in every tiny thing. Somewhere in the back of Robert's lurked a feeling that Henry sounded slightly sarcastic. Well, why shouldn't I? He demanded. I noticed that in every disagreement my view was the right one. It was? Of course it was. What do you mean by that tone? Nothing. Henry seemed lost in thought. I was just wondering how many right views are left on this planet. There must be quite a few, all different, even if we have picked up only a few by television. An interesting facet of our peculiar culture. Every individual omnipotent and omniscient, within his own sphere. Robert regarded him with indignant incredulity. "You don't seem to understand my point," he began again. "I told her we ought to come to my house, where things are better arranged, and she simply refused. Contradicted me. It was the most—" He broke off. "The impudence of him!" he exclaimed. "Signing off when I wanted to talk!" The End of Manners of the Age.